Good morning and welcome to this video on the Mokka X. The first part of this video follows on from the service video which was posted a couple of days ago regarding the expansion bottle and possible leaks. So let's take a look at where we are after 2 days of the car being used after the service. So the actual reason for this car being back so soon is the fact that it's due for an MOT today, and I carried out a light inspection when I did the service and found that the front pads along with the rear tyres needed sorting out, which is what I'm here to do today. Now, looking under the bonnet, that expansion bottle, which was full up, is now virtually empty again. You can just make out the residue on the pipe. That was already there. It was dry when I checked it when I arrived this morning, but there's so little water in the bottle now, it probably isn't leaking anyway. So I'm going to stick with my synopsis on this, and it's either the cap wants replacing because the seal's bad, or the bottle has fractures in it and it's leaking under pressure, or it's both of those items. So we will address that in the very near future. But in the meantime, we need to keep an eye on the coolant level on a daily basis. This vehicle does have an existing recall out on it. I'm not sure what that recall is, but it is live and the owner has contacted them and they're going to write to them in due course. Top secret stuff. So we are here to change the front pads on the Mokka for the MOT this afternoon, so let's crack on. But the pads that we're fitting are Allied Nippon, and the part number is ADB 32437. So we have the car jacked up. First thing to do is to remove the nut covers. Do it with a pair of long nose pliers. We have a locking wheel nut and a 19mm socket. So the assessment that I made on here that the front pads were out was purely from what I could see through the wheels and with an inspection torch, but looking at them, I think I'm spot on. They wouldn't have gone through a test. We're going to remove the caliper, clean it up a little bit and place the pads. So firstly, there's quite a lip on these discs. Next time it's going to need those replacing as well. But we're just pushing the pad back to create a bit of free flow on the slide rail so that we can lift it off. So I'm going to put a 16mm spanner on the nut on the inside of the rail, and it's a 14 on the actual bolt itself. Just stops it spinning, and the same on the bottom. Loosen the bolts off, just removing some of the surface debris. Then remove the top and bottom bolt, keep hold of it just in case it drops out, and then place your caliper, just rest it on the top. And if we look at the condition of the pads, this one, be honest, I had more meat in my sandwich. Yeah, that would have been a fail on an MOT. The inside one, oddly on this one, is slightly better. But normally the insides go first. That damage is from the screwdriver, which is fine. After a little clean-up, you need to insert a compression tool, like so. And all we're doing here is pushing the piston back inside the caliper to as far as it goes until you feel it lock, which is what it's done now. Also keep an eye on your brake fluid reservoir, because as you're pushing that piston back, you're pushing fluid back into the bottle and it could overflow. So to counteract this, I generally get a heavy duty lump of tissue, screw it up tightly and sit it in the neck of the bottle, and that will soak up all the excess fluid, and we can always retop it later on once the brakes are finished. Giving the caliper a bit of a clean as well, wire brush, let it dry, and I'm going to give it a little dusting of silver just to freshen it up a little bit. Then I'll just turn it over to make sure I get in that face there. Caliper refreshed. Just removed the paint from the piston itself. I've applied some grease to the shims inside the caliper, and the next thing I need to do here is to remove these slide rails, because they do get quite gummy. So if you pull back on the rubber, slide it out, as you can see, it's worth noting this bottom one has a rubber sleeve on it, but they're a little bit grubby, a bit dry. So we'll give them a good clean up and a re-grease and sit them back in their sockets. So these, as expected, have cleaned up very well. I'll put a little drop of grease on them, high temperature grease. I use liquid moly. And then simply slide it back in. And if you push it, the rubber will pop back. So it's flowing nice and freely. Same with the top one. You'll notice the top one doesn't have that sleeve on the end of the pin. Cleaned and greased, pop it back in and then push. The rubber goes back over the top, and again you've got a nice free flowing set of slide pins. I've also put a little bit of grease around the face of the piston and on the back of these two here, where the pad sits, just to prevent any squeaking. So the caliper's all dry. Just remove these bits here. So these pads are handed. That's the old one. We know that one was the inside one because that was the one that I put my screwdriver in to spread the caliper. So here's the replacement. So the one with the clip on the bottom goes on the inside, and then just slot it in there. And that's your pad. The opposing pad has nothing on it at all clip wise. Remember to put the meat on the inside. And that's in there. All we've got to do now is refit the caliper. Lifting your caliper down, slide it over your new pad. There'll be plenty of room because you've put the piston back to square one. Insert your 14mm bolts and tighten them up nice and evenly. Don't use an air gun, otherwise you're likely to strip the threads out. I'm talking about 25 Newton meters. And that's this side. complete. There's no need to remove the whole caliper. You can do if you want to do a thorough clean, but in this case, as we're short of time and it was literally get it ready for the test this afternoon. Now I'm just going to pump the brakes a couple of times and you should see this gap close up, which will then draw fluid through from that bottle, hence preventing it more so from trying to overflow when I do the other side. Couple of pumps has done it. Just make sure that everything turns. And although I have removed the tissue, which did soak up some of the fluid, the level has dropped back down, which is great. So before putting the wheel back, I'm just going to give this centre a clean, because it's quite corroded. I'll also apply a little bit of grease to it, and that will help the wheel go on and also prevent it rusting and corroding and eventually bonding to the hub. Just tighten them up roughly, evenly. Make sure that the wheel goes back on. Don't use excessive force on a locking wheel nut with a rattler. You will strip it. And then we'll check them with a bar when it's back on the ground. On to side 2. just checking the reservoir. The tissue's done the job perfectly. Don't drip the fluid on the car. Brake fluid's not as harmful as it used to be in the old days, but it's still not good on your paintwork. And the fluid's nice and high. We're on the max, which is absolutely spot on. Just got to sort that bottle issue out. So I've topped that bottle off again. Bit of a waste of time, well, certainly a waste of antifreeze. Something that needs to be addressed on this car as soon as possible, especially going into the winter. So that's about it on this video. Front pad's done. The rears are borderline, but it should go through the test. The rear tyres have been upgraded and we are ready to go to test. So a couple of hours away and fingers crossed. Keep you posted on the bottle. If I get the job, I'll put a video out. Bye for now.